What's going on, everybody? My name is Matt Zephyr from Mystic Animals, and first of all, I want to say I'm really sorry for my lack of uploads in the last few weeks. Truth is, life got really busy and really overwhelming for a while, but that's not all that happened. I had a friend come over from pretty far away in Canada, and he's not going to get the chance to go down in this area often, so I decided that I would do him a little tour of the area. So we went up to Magazoo, we went up to all of the reptile stores that are amazing around here, and that definitely took some of my time. But what I did not mention is that my friend that came over is actually a bit of a beginner in the reptile industry. Not saying this with any shade, because you have to start somewhere, but that got me thinking, what are the top 5 challenges for new keepers? And how do you get above those challenges? Like, how do you end up with a room like this from one tank in a bedroom? And those are the questions I'll be answering today. So if you guys are ready, cue the intro. So clearly one of the first and the biggest reptile challenge that you guys would have to face if you guys were beginning in this industry would be to find the space to put all of this stuff in. And I'll be honest, that is something that took definitely longer than what I thought for us. See, we started living in apartments, and that's like pretty normal for people our age. But you know, it's not normal for people our age keeping reptiles, because it turns out that landlords don't really like that stuff. So there are ways to going around that. Of course, being upfront with your landlord about the things that you have, right? Of course, if you have like 6 green iguanas in your house, you're probably not going to find a new apartment by being upfront. But I'm not going to go ahead and tell you to lie to a landlord, because that's not super legal, if I'm being correct, but I'm not sure about that. Anyway, once you find a place that you can call your own, then there is obviously a little bit of a weight being taken off your shoulders, right? Because these animals, all while still living in their enclosures, like they don't leave their enclosures, but their enclosures take a lot of space. And they take a lot of space, but they also take a lot of money. So the second challenge that we'll be talking about today is budgeting all your affairs in order to actually not lose money by doing this. Right? And of course you will spend money. I'm not saying that you won't spend money, but I'm saying you won't lose money if you do it smart. What I mean by that is purchase enclosures that you think will last the test of time. Don't be afraid to go to the hardware store instead of the reptile store for certain things like heat bulbs, because, well, the deals aren't fantastic at reptile stores. Also, I get these packs of Philips bulbs, right? They're rough service, so they're meant to be banged up a little bit for construction, and they do absolutely fantastic as basking bulbs, and they cost $4 for the pack of 2. So anyway, that's my tip of the day. But the big advice that I have for you is, if you want to really skip number 2, which is the money thing, don't go all in at once, and probably most importantly, purchase stuff on Kijiji or Craigslist, guys, because that is the #1 way to save a lot of money in this industry. In fact, I go ahead and say that half my animals are actually from Kijiji and they're rescues. So I did not pay full retail value for them. Pepe, for example, which is my black and white Argentine Tegu, I got for free. And Kyle over here, which is probably the best thing that I've ever purchased, and probably the worst thing that you could ever purchase, was only $100. And he came with the cage, but I said no, I don't want it, because it was ugly. But this little boy is not ugly. He's absolutely so pretty. Look at this boy. He's so cute. Anyway, challenge number 3. And that, depending on where you live, can be a big problem, okay? So I live in Canada, and my problem is heat. But if you lived in Florida or Texas or Arizona, your problem could also be heat, but in a completely different way. You see, these animals are called ectotherms, and what that means is that they cannot, and I repeat, cannot, change their internal temperatures just from sweating or shivering like we do. They need to physically move from the hot spot, which is underneath that lamp right here, and they need to go into colder areas like this or like under in order to thermoregulate. And if you don't know what thermoregulate means, it means not die of cold or not die of heat. So these animals are incredibly vulnerable to big temperature changes. So whether that is it's -30 outside and you didn't heat your room properly, so a little bit of air is coming in through under that door, as you can see I have a stopper, or whether it's you got an arid room, you got some freaking Euromastics, and oops, you live in Arizona and it's 41 degrees outside and you don't have air conditioning. Unfortunately, your room might get too hot and your animals might perish. So what do you do to remedy the situation? Well, here's what I did. I separated my hot enclosures. So these are all of my hottest animals. So bearded dragons, right here, monitors, right? A bunch of things that require like 39 to 41 degrees of basking spot, right? Of course, I mentioned that every door here has a stopper, and that's fantastic for all of the air drafts. But we also have our smaller room, which is our temperate room, and has all of our colder cooler animals in there. Little colubrid snakes, right? We got a lot of stuff in here. But they're all separated so that we can control the temperature in both the rooms, right? So this room is much hotter than the other room, as it's supposed to, because that's the way I set it. And of course, if your enclosures are in your living room or you're living in a studio apartment, so it's like one big room that is your bedroom and living room and all that stuff, well then in that case, you can't really escape the heat that these reptiles are producing, but you could definitely turn on your radiators and match the air temperature. So that's the temperature that you're feeling here, not a spot temperature. And you can make it so that the air temperature is hot enough, even if I'm not under a lamp, because I heat the room. Now in my case, I don't even need to heat the room, actually heat the room, because all of my radiators are off because all my lamps do so much freaking heat that I'm good. I don't need it hotter than this, guys. I really don't. So that was problem number 3. Problem number 4 is a little bit more hardcore. And it's probably the hardest challenge that any reptile keeper will have to face, recognizing illness and also treating it and being able to treat it before it becomes too late. Now, you know, as synapsids and as mammals, we are very different from these reptiles. Chipotle, for example, is a bearded dragon, and bearded dragons have some pretty interesting dietary restrictions when it comes to plants. So if you were to try to do a bioactive enclosure for a bearded dragon, I would say be careful of what plants that you put in there, because a lot of them can make them sick. Or another example to show how different they are from us, Kyle right here can sleep underwater for hours and hours. The longest I've ever caught him underwater is like 4 to 5 hours. So it's pretty crazy the resilience in that. But drop the room 3-4 degrees too cold, or fail to notice that there are some things in his behavior that are wrong, and you could definitely be dealing with problem number 5, and that is the loss of an animal. And unfortunately, there's no real solution to that, but there is things that you can do in order to grow and learn from it and to become a better keeper for the sake of the animals that you have left. One thing that I would heavily recommend is to check out Facebook groups about specifically animals that you keep. I'm in a group called Nile Monitor Keepers, and as you guys probably know if you guys watch this channel, Nile monitors are a little bit niche. Like a lot of people will have monitors. I'm also in monitor keeping community, but the Nile Keeper group is probably one of my favorite groups because everybody that's in there has a crazy beautiful Nile, and they all have a beautiful success story of how they tamed their Nile and how they made him just as nice as I made Kyle. Come on, boy. But you refused to let me pet you this morning. You're like, no? Okay. I love you, bud. But being in those groups isn't just fun because it's relatable that other people are keeping the same animals as you. It's also a perfect place where you can read about other people's problems with their specific species that are the same that what you keep. And just reading what they had to say about their own specific situations can get you prepared, or even get you to open your eye towards a behavior that you've never really noticed in your animal. So in any way that you can, if you befriend other keepers, right, you'll be more well surrounded when it comes to answering questions that are pretty difficult. And I know that it's not always possible to befriend other people near you that are keeping the exact same things as you are, especially if you keep niche things, but online is the place for that. And even a place like our Discord server is a perfect place where you can ask all of your questions. There's a question of the day every single day that you can answer, and a place where you can post all your reptile memes. And it's 100% free all the time. Thank you so much for watching this video, everybody. If you enjoyed it, please remember to hit that subscribe and that like button because it helps all of us a lot. So my name is Matt, this is Mystic Animals, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace. Thank you so much for checking out this video, everybody. If you enjoyed it, make sure you hit that like button, and if you really loved it, why don't you subscribe? It's free, you know?